Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Maison African Motives. In this platform we shall be focusing on solving of quadratic equations. Actually, we are solving equations from NGM book 4. So we are going to be focusing actually on exercise 7e. So if you are new to my channel, you can consider subscribing so that you won't miss any of the classes that we shall be having from Maison African Motives. So in this case, actually, we have a lot of questions that we are given that we are supposed to work on. I wrote exercise 5e, exercise 7e. I don't know which is which there, but it's supposed to be exercise 7e because the 5d I was working on it, but it was actually on another topic. Okay, so that's why it ended up like that. But this is what we're moving. All right, so I have a lot of questions that we are just going to focus on. So we're asked to solve the following equations. Actually, guys, when you're solving equations, the first thing that you have to cross-check is the type of equation that you're given. The type of the equation that you are given is very, very important. Okay, so in this case, we are given equations that actually have got fractions. So we've got a fraction here, we've got a fraction here. So how am I going to solve these typical equations where I'm given a fraction? Let's start with the first one, which is on number 1, which is 3 over a, which is equal to a minus 2, like this. All right, in order for you to solve this type of an equation, you have to actually remove the fraction. That's the first thing. You have to clear the fractions. Okay, so how do I actually clear fractions? Because that is what you're asking yourself in this case. Okay, how are we going to clear these fractions? So you've got two options. Depending with the type of fraction that you're given, there is a condition that when you are given two fractions, given two fractions, okay, and the condition 1 on the other side, 1 on the other side of the equation. Okay, so this is the condition that you can be given. You are given two fractions, and it's a condition where 1 is on the other side of the equation. So on this part, you can actually cross multiply. All right, that's what you can do if you want to do that. Okay, then whether you're given two fractions or not, you're just given fraction, just a condition, you can actually clear fractions by multiplying each and every term. So you multiply each term by the LCM. All right, which is the LCM. Some they call it the LCD, which is the lowest common denominator, or LCM, which is the lowest common multiple of the given fraction. So these are the two conditions that you are given. You have to multiply each and every term that you are given by that LCM so that you won't miss anything. Okay, so that's what we are gonna do to remove this fraction, which is 3 over a. We are actually clearing the fraction, that is to remove that fraction. Okay, so as you can see, I have two possible conditions. I can just write this everything over 1 like this, so that it's now a fraction, because remember, any number like 3 as a fraction, it can be written as 3 over 1. So it's the same thing with a minus 1. It can be written as a minus 2 over 1, like that, as a fraction. So now I can cross multiply. Okay, so you can cross multiply there. Okay, so if you cross multiply, it's going to be 1 times 3, which is 3, which is equivalent to a is multiplying a minus 2. Everything is going to be multiplied because you're cross multiplying. So you can actually open a bracket like this, a times a minus 2, to indicate that a is going to multiply everything. You open a bracket. Okay, then you can actually remove the brackets by multiplying each and every term. So you multiply each term inside the bracket. So 3 is, so you actually clear brackets here. All right, so you're going to have a times a, which is a squared, a times minus 2, which is minus 2a. Okay, guys, I want you to take note. All along, we didn't even have an idea of the type of an equation that we are working with. But now after expanding brackets and after everything, you can now note or tell the type of the equation that you are working with. So as you can see in this equation, the highest exponent that you're given is 2. So that's definitely a quadratic equation that you're working with. So the only thing that you can do to solve a quadratic equation is to rearrange so that it follows the manner ax squared plus bx plus c, which is equal to 0. So you have to make sure that one of the sides is equal to 0. So how am I going to do that? Okay, I'm going to write this side a squared minus 2a. So that is this side, okay? Then I transpose this 3 to this side. It's going to be minus 3, which is equal to 0. So I have made the equation to be equal to 0. So it's a quadratic equation. So you'll be asking yourself, what am I going to do to solve a quadratic equation? I've got quadratic formula, I've got a factorization method. So which one is the best? So you try factorization if possible. If factorization is not, then you have to use the quadratic formula. But most cases, guys, factorization is the best method that you can actually use. So remember on factorization, I told you guys, when you're given the coefficient of the first term, which is the squared part here, as 1, you can actually open two brackets, a and a, equate them to 0 like that. So you've got a and a, then you focus with the constant term, which is minus 3. So you have to find factors of minus 3. So you need factors of minus 3. But these factors, when you add them, they must give you this number, which is minus 2. So what are the factors of minus 3? It's definitely minus 3 and 1. Minus 3 times 1 is minus 3. Minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2. So we're going to have minus 3, a plus 1. You write those factors with their signs inside the brackets, okay? Then what does this part mean actually? It means, so here, that's the factorization. If you are not good at factorization, guys, make sure that you watch the video on factorization. Just type factorization at Mason African Motives. You are going to see the video, okay? So that you can work with this type of factorization from the beginning. All right, so here we are now solving. We are going to let each bracket, or to equate each bracket to 0 here, because from the 0 concept, so here you have to apply the 0 concept. What does the 0 concept tell us? It tells us that when brackets are multiplying, or when two terms are multiplying each other, a times b is equal to 0 like this. It means a is equal to 0 or b can be equal to 0. That's the either one of these should give us a 0. That's for you to obtain a 0. One of these should be equal to 0. So we can actually take that as an advantage to say these two are multiplying. So it's either a minus 3 is equal to 0 or a plus 1 is equal to 0. So you can solve for a. So a is equal to 3, or a is equal to plus 1 to that side is going to be a minus 1. So as you can see, guys, where we started, we just started with a normal fraction, but at the end we ended up with a quadratic equation. So as you can see, revising, guys, is very, very important. You have a lot of questions that you can actually meet and work on, because typical questions, that's what they can be like. So you have a lot of questions that you can actually try to work on, okay, just like the one also which was on number 3 there. Okay, number 3 we're given something like this: 7 over 3 plus 2 over e, which is equal to e. So it's just one and the same thing. If you are to cross check, it's one and the same thing, but this time we are given a fraction, and this e can be a fraction if we write it as e over 1. So that definitely has changed everything, because we no longer have two fractions, because we said when I have, let's say it was like this, I could have cross multiply because I have two fractions, but this time I have 3, 1, 2, 3. So these are, I can't cross multiply in this case, but I have to multiply each and every term by the LCM. Remember, that was the concept that I wrote here, that you have to multiply each term by the LCM in order for you to remove the bracket, or the fractions. So what will be the LCM of 3e and 1? So the LCM actually in this case is going to give us what? 3e. That's our LCM 3e. So we multiply each and every term. So we're going to multiply this part by 3e. All right, multiply this part by 3e, multiply this part by 3e like this. All right, so the moment I multiply each and every part, it actually means this part actually means this, guys. It's the same as 3e like this times 7 over 3. That is what it actually means. So you can actually cancel this 3 and this 3. That is what is happening here. 3 and 3 can cancel. You are left with e and 7. So e times 7, that's 7e. Plus, which is the same concept with this one, it actually means 2e like this. 2 over e times 3e like this. So this e and e can cancel. This e and e can cancel. So you are left with 2 and 3. 2 times 3, which is a 6. All right. Then this one is the same also. It's 1 into 3e, which is actually 3e. Then 3e times e, which is 3e squared. All right. So back again, if you got to cross-check to the the previous part that we had there, you'll see that we're actually having a quadratic equation again. So you can let one of the sides be equal to 0. So we can start with 3e squared, which is actually a positive. So taking this to this side, it's going to be 7 to this side, it will be minus 7e. 6 to this side, it's going to be minus 6 because it was a positive. Okay, so that's it. Back to the normal story, factorization, but this time we do not have that condition where this was a 1. This is now a 3. So we have to apply the normal factorization, or you can just apply the quadratic formula. Okay, so most of us are used to quadratic formula, but if it is paper 1 now, you don't have option. You have to actually use the factorization where you have to this time multiply the first term and the last term. So 3 and minus 6. If you multiply these two terms, you're going to obtain a minus 18e squared. So remember, you have to find factors of minus 18e squared, but these factors of minus 18e squared should be a condition that when you add them, they should give us minus 7. So what are the factors of minus 18? Let's try these two numbers, 9 and 2. But since these are factors of minus 18, it means one of these two numbers should be a negative. All right, so let's try minus 9 and 9 minus 2 like this. Okay, so if I multiply these two numbers, I'm going to obtain minus 18. The same thing case minus 18. But which part now is when I add them, they should give us the middle term here, which is minus 7e. So, okay, minus 9 plus 2, that's actually minus 7. 9 plus minus 2, which is actually a positive 7. But as we need a minus 7, so it's 9 and minus 2. Minus 9 and 2, minus 9 and 2. So how do I actually solve this? I replace them. Yes, so it's going to be 3a squared. You replace those two terms in place of minus 7a. This time is different because we are given 3, not 1. So you're not going to just open brackets direct. Okay, so you're going to replace these factors, which is minus 9e plus 2e. Okay, so you have replaced them in place of minus 7e, then you're left with minus 6, which is equal to 0. Okay, so remember from your factorization, when you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, you're going to group them by grouping. You group them into 2. So if you group them into 2, for the first 2, you have to factorize what is common. So 3 and 9, 3 is common. You've got e and e is common, like this. Okay, so you're going to divide 3e squared divide by 3e, 3e squared divide by 3e like this. So this one and this one will cancel. So you divide, this one that you factor out is the one that you divide. It's like 3a squared divided by this. So e squared and e, you have got 2 of them, so you're going to be left with 1e, so it's going to give you an e. Minus 9e divided by 3e, so that's the same, guys. Minus 9e divided by 3e like this. So e and e will cancel. Minus 9 divided by 3, which is going to give you minus 3. Okay, so that's it, guys, for this one. Then remember that for these two, you must factor out a common term, but it should give us the same bracket as this one. So which number are you going to factor out between 2e and minus 6? So it's going to be positive 2. So you have to write the number and the sign here. So why positive? Because this e is positive here. So if you factor out a positive, it is going to remain as a positive. Okay, so if you factor out 2 like this, it's going to be 2e divided by 2. So as you can see, 2 and 2 cancel. You remain with e. We have minus 6 divided by 2, which is going to give you minus 3 like this, which is equal to 0. Okay, so the brackets are the same. Therefore, what am I going to do? I'm going to take or factor out this common bracket, which is e minus 3. So if I factor out e minus 3 like this, which is the common bracket, I'm left with 3e plus 2 like this. This is what I'm left with, which is equal to 0. So this is an equation, guys. So this is equal to 0 throughout. It's an equation that you're solving. So definitely we are now going to apply the zero concept. Remember the zero concept: when two terms are multiplying each other and equated to 0, it's either one of them is, as one of these is going to give us a 0. So it's either e minus 3 is equal to 0, or the other bracket of 3e plus 2 is equal to 0. So it's either 3e plus 2 is equal to 0. So definitely I can solve for e. So what is going to be the value of e? Minus 3 to this side is going to be positive. So 0 plus 3, because we are transposing, minus 3 crosses the equal sign, so it's going to be plus 3. So e is going to be 0 plus 3, which is 3. Or transpose first, minus 2 is going to be minus 2, so you're going to be left with something like 3e, which is equal to minus 2 like this. Therefore you divide by 3 by 3. Okay, so e is equal to minus 2 over 3, which is minus 2 over 3 like this. So these are the two possible values of e that you're obtaining. So therefore your e is going to give you a 3 or a minus 2 over 3. So that's how they actually ask these questions, guys. So as you can see, it's a matter of working with more questions, so that you can actually understand what is happening in this case. All right, what about this typical condition? Because as you can see, there are so many questions that were in this exercise that so if you are going to watch this and finish up this, you're going to understand much, guys. I assure you. All right, so what about this part now? Let's start on number 7, where you're given 3x. This is actually number 7, where you're given 3x minus 2, which is equal to 4 over x minus 1. What am I going to do with this one? So if you were to cross-check, it's similar to the first question, but this time we have got x minus 1. So it's still one and the same thing. I'm just going to write this as over 1. Remember why we write this over 1? So that it's now a fraction. When it is a fraction, it's now easier for me to cross multiply. Okay, so I can just cross multiply there. So let's cross multiply and see what you're going to have. So take note, this time we have got 3x minus 2 and x minus 1 multiplying each other. These two, they are multiplying each other. So you've got 3x minus 2 in a bracket, x minus 1 in a bracket, so that it's going to be easier for you to multiply properly. Okay, and this is equated to, you cross multiply here, 1 and 4, which is going to give us a 4. All right, so what is left, guys, is actually expand the brackets. So as you can see, you've got a bracket here and a bracket, so you have to expand brackets, 3x and x, which is going to give us 3x squared, 3x and minus 1, which is minus 3x, minus 2 and x, which is minus 2x, minus 2 and minus 1. So you're multiplying minus 2 times minus 1, which is plus 2. All right, so as you can see, guys, this 4 is just alone there. So take it back here. Okay, so you can actually take it back, or let's wait so that we understand what's happening first. Maybe I'm rushing to someone, so let's wait. All right, so from this part that you're expanding here, as you can see, we've got two like terms here, minus 3x and minus 2x. So you can actually collect these like terms, okay, from this part here. Okay, so it's going to be 3x squared minus 3 minus 2, which is minus 5x plus 2, all right, which is equal to 4. All right, then let's transpose now. We can transpose this 4 to this side. It's going to be a minus 4. So you're going to have 3x squared minus 5x like that. So 2 minus 4. Okay, 2 minus 4, which is actually minus 2, which is equal to 0. So now with this condition, what am I going to do? Guys, we're now back to that issue of factorization and so forth and so forth. So you can apply your factorization. So actually, you're working with these. We are working with two things. If you are to cross-check, you're working with two things at the same time. If you are to cross-check here, you're working with two things. But that's the option. There's no option. We have to factorize, or you can just apply the quadratic formula. But like I said, in paper one, sometimes yes, sometimes you'll be having the part that you can actually, but let's learn also factorization, guys. Okay, so 3 and minus 2 is minus 6x squared. Remember, you multiply this part and this part. Then you need two terms that you can actually multiply to give us minus 6x squared. But these two terms should give us a middle term, which is minus 5x. So which are the terms? Definitely, guys, minus 6. We have got minus 6 and 1. Okay, so if you multiply this, it's going to give a minus 6. If you add minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5. So these are the two terms that you're going to actually use. But take note, there is x. So you're going to write this as minus 6x and this is 1x. But 1x is same as x. So it's minus 6x and x. 1x is same as x. Okay, so there's no effect. So we're going to replace these two terms into the middle term, which is minus 3x. So it's going to be 3x squared. Then we replace minus 6x and plus x. So it's minus 6x plus x, like this. All right, then we are left with minus 2 because minus 2 was part of the equation. So minus 2 then we equal to 0. So take note, you are factorizing, but you are solving an equation. So equal to 0 is supposed to be there throughout. All right. So now we have replaced these terms. Remember, we are factorizing and we've got 4 terms now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are going to group this into 2. So for the first two terms, what is common in this case? We can cross-check that we've got 3 and 6. So 3 is common. X squared and x, so we can factor out 3x. Okay, so if you factor out 3x, we're going to divide 3x squared divided by 3x. So it's 3 and 3 cancel. X squared divided by x, which is x. Minus 6x and 3x. If you have to cross-check, we've got minus 6 and 3, which is going to give us minus 2. X and x can cancel, which is going to give us minus 2, like that. So then definitely here we already have the x minus 2. But which term are you going to factor out so that it will remain as x minus 2? So you're going to factor out plus 1 so that it doesn't change. So in order for the expression not to change the original state where it was, you factor out a plus. So you're going to factor out plus 1, which is going to remain as x minus 2 equal to 0 from this part here. All right, so that's it. So these brackets are the same. So what am I going to do? Just going to factor out that common bracket, which is x minus 2. I'm left with 3x and plus 1. So another bracket, 3x plus 1 equal to a 0, like that. Okay. So either one of these brackets should give us a 0. So either x minus 2 is equal to 0 or 3x plus 1 is equal to 0 from this concept. So now easier for us to actually solve for the x. So the first part, we are going to have our x being equal to 2. Minus 2 to the other side is going to be a plus. Or from this part, 3x plus 1 is equal to 0. You transpose this is going to be minus 1. So you'll be left with 3x is equal to minus 1. Divide by 3 by 3. So x is going to be minus 1 over 3 if you divide properly there. So that's actually the concept that you have if you are working or if you're dealing with these typical equations. So guys, I have a lot of questions that you can actually work on. So I'll work for you to try on. So try this so that when we meet in our next class, you shall actually have a concept to refer or to ask on. So I want us to try these questions actually, which are on the same concept. So as you can see, it's a matter of the same thing, the cross multiplication and so forth, rearranging of fractions and so forth, so that you can apply the cross multiplication. But the idea there is actually the same throughout. The idea there is actually the same throughout. So these are the typical questions actually that you can have typical questions. So how am I going to actually peruse through this question? If you have to cross-check, we've got the same thing or the same concept where you can actually cross-multiply. This one is an important thing, an important question. Why? If you have to cross-check, we've got a lot of terms that you're having, which are not single terms, but they are expressions. So you can actually cross-multiply, but here we're going to have 4n. I want us to see the interesting part here. 4n minus 3 into this one is going to be 3n plus 4, like this. Okay, cross multiply this. So now we've got this part here. So it's going to be, you can just start with 6n plus 1, but it's going to multiply 2n minus 1 like this. All right. So still back to the normal sequence, normal way of expanding brackets. So it's going to be 4n and 3n. So it's 4 times 3, which is 12. So you can just write 12n here. All right. Then now we've got 4 and 4, which is going to be plus 16n. Right, we are done with 4n here. 4n and 4 and 4, which gave us 16. We are now moving to minus 3 and 3. So minus 3 and 3 is going to be minus 9n because there's n here. Then minus 3 and plus 4, which is going to give us minus 12. You're multiplying minus 3 times 4, which is minus 12. Okay, and which is equal to, you do the same on the other side. Guys, I'm writing 12n instead of 12n squared. Guys, this is 4 and 3 is 12n squared, not 12n. All right, thanks for who saw that and corrected while we're writing some part there. Okay, so now let's move on to this part. We have got 6n and 2n, which is actually 12n squared. All right, then 6n and minus 1, which is going to give us minus 6n. All right, we are done with 6n. We move on to this one. So it's 1 and 2 there, which is going to give us 2n. Then 1 and minus 1, which is going to give us minus 1. Okay, so that is the condition that you're having, guys. So you can actually simplify this side first. We're going to have 12n squared, 16 minus 9, which is going to give us something like a 7 there. So we're going to obtain 7n minus 12, which is equal to, we can also collect like terms here. So as you can see, we've got 12n squared minus 6 plus 2, which is actually minus 4. So it's going to be minus 6 plus 2, which is minus 4n minus 1. So from this equation, guys, you will probably see that you've got two equal sides. This side is equal to this side, but it's a quadratic or something like that. So let's start by collecting the terms together at one side of the equation so that we'll actually see the final part. But if you were to cross-check, these two are equal. So if I take this to the other side, it's going to subtract, but it's going to give us a 0. But anyways, let's just write 12n squared minus 12n squared plus 7n. All right, minus 4n to this side is going to be a plus 4n. Okay, already we had minus 12 here. Minus 1 to this side is going to be a plus 1, which is equal to 0. So we just like rearrange so that we are like solving a quadratic equation. But let's see the funny part that is going to happen here. You'll see that these two are equal. So 12n squared minus 12n squared, that's a 0 there. So there's nothing that is going to come out here. So you're left with this part. So I can actually collect like terms here. That's 7 plus 4, which is an 11. So we're going to obtain 11n. Then if I add up these numbers, actually I'm going to obtain minus 11, because it's actually this minus 12 plus 1, which is actually minus 11. But if I transpose this minus 11 to this side of the equation, it's going to be a positive. Why am I transposing? The question is, why am I transposing? Why am I transposing? That's the question. I was having something like 11n. I was supposed to be having something like 11n minus 11 like this is equal to 0. But how can I solve like this? I have to transpose. So you see why we have to transpose in this case. That's why we have to take this, because we are now left with a linear equation, so there's no way. Okay, so you can just divide by 11 by 11. So that means therefore the value of n in this case is going to give us a 1. So okay, so sorry for that. Just divide by 11 this side. So this one is going to give us a 1. So that's 11 divided by 11, which is a straight 1. So that's how the can ask these questions, guys, and you have to be very familiar to some typical questions of this nature, where you are working with fractions, algebraic fractions, you're solving equations under algebraic fractions. So it's very important that you relate to the information that you'll be given. So that's it, guys. Working on O-level mathematics from Meson African Motives. So if you are new, guys, you can consider being part of the family, and also don't forget to share our videos to your friends and colleagues so that they also can benefit from this information that we're having from Meson African Motives. So thumbs up, guys, and don't forget to comment. Let me know the areas that we can work on, but above all, let's continue to share our videos, guys, to your friends. Okay, share to someone, actually benefit someone outside there. That's it, guys. Till